To the GirlBoss show, the show where we discuss business, life, and everything beyond. And my name's Alexia, and I am your host today. And we've got an awesome crew of amazing girl bosses joining me today. So introducing, starting with Tina, who is 18 years old and just graduated from Mount Albert Grammar School. We have Ariana, 15-year-old from Westlake Girls High School, and the amazing Rochelle here, Senior Talent Acquisition Manager at Fletcher Building. And I'm really excited because we are just connecting back because we've just all finished the GirlBoss Advantage program powered by Fletcher Building.
Woo!
So that has been amazing. We've just had 5 amazing days where we've been done all sorts of incredible internship opportunity at Fletcher Building. So I want to start off. Let's all think of one word to describe how we found those amazing 5 days. Who wants to start us off? Go on, Rochelle.
I'm going to say empowering.
Transformative.
Self-assurance.
Life-changing, I'd say.
Life-changing. I love that. Thank you. Okay, team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by sharing our boss moment. So what is a time that we were a boss, we took a risk, it worked out, and we just lived and breathed our boss moment? Who wants to start us off? Do you want to start us off, Tina?
Sure thing. I'd say a boss moment would be last year. My auntie really wanted to jump off Lake Taupo for her 40th birthday. She did not want to do it alone, so I guess she needed me to give her some support. I mean, that was a huge thing for me too. I've never bungee jumped, afraid of heights. So I just did it together, and that was probably life-changing for me because, you know, jumping off at that angle when you see the world at, like, at that decline, oh, man, like, there's just a rush that goes through you, and it really makes you appreciate what you have. So I think that would be my boss moment.
Has anyone else bungee jumped here? Have you bungee? No, I haven't.
I've skydived, but
not
that's
bungee cool.
Jump. Yeah, I did 14,000 feet.
Wow.
About 20 years ago now. I probably wouldn't do it again.
No, I feel like it's one of those things you do it once, like, yeah, I've done it. Now I never have to do it again. Okay, what about you, Ariana?
I would say my boss moment was Vicky asked us to do one of us to do a thank you speech to the crew at Becker Engineering, and I'm terrified by public speaking. Like I've gone diving with sharks in Niue. Like I'm not scared of that, but public speaking really gets me. And so I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna do it. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And she was like, you have to share why you were passionate about what we're learning about. So I was like, okay then. And so I did that, and it was really, I was so scared before, but after I felt really empowered, I guess, and like self-assured within myself. So yeah.
That's so amazing. And Ariana, you know, this is, even being here on this live stream is not necessarily the most easiest thing for you. So good on you for being here, and like you're one of the first people to put your hand up. So I love that. That's amazing.
Thank you. You nailed that speech.
You absolutely nailed that thank you speech. And Rochelle, you're always a boss. What's your boss moment that you want to share with us?
My boss moment is about 2 years ago at Fletcher Building. We launched Switch Up, which is a blue-collar platform that we use to bring people that are unemployed off the benefit and into work. So launching that across the country was a pretty big boss moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. Were you nervous when you launched something like that?
There was a lot of planning and work that went into it. And, you know, it wasn't something that just happened overnight. It was a little bit slow to start with, but now we're 2 years in and it's working really well. But, yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's always hard when you take a risk like that. Okay, team, so what I really want us to do with today's session is I really want for these amazing young girl bosses here to really grill our wonderful Rochelle here, put her on the spot, and ask her some hard questions. So does anyone have a hard question. Tina, do you have a hard question for Rochelle?
Here we go.
And
What's the first thing as a recruiter that you notice when an interviewee walks into an interview space? What's the first thing you notice?
For me, I definitely think, it's all about personality for me. It's the eye contact, it's the smile, it's that engagement. You can tell straight away whether someone wants to be there and someone's, really enthusiastic to hear what you have to say and, if they're attentive and all those sorts of things. They say you have 30 seconds to make an impression, and it really is true. So it's your posture, it's the way that you walk, it's your handshake.
Yeah, everyone.
that's great.
It's all of those things that make, a really good impression with someone. So, yes.
Is there any redemption from a bad first impression?
There's always redemption. There's so many times I've interviewed people, and as soon as I sit down, I thought, oh, here we go. And actually, they've turned out to be brilliant. So people get nervous, don't they?
Not to name anyone.
People get nervous and things with interviews, so there's always a bit of, a bit of leeway.
Yeah, I think another big one, just my experience, is even how I think that judgment starts even right back on that first email. So if they call you up to arrange a time, getting back quickly, little things like that can be really, really key.
Yeah. And answering your phone and making sure your voicemail is not some jokey one. As a job hunter, we get them all the time and we all ring them and listen to them.
I love that. That's so funny. Love that. Have you got any funny ringtones that you've heard?
Oh, I've heard so many, especially ones that are I don't know, like a gangster rap kind of thing. Hey, so-and-so's not on the phone. And then you're like, oh, goodness.
They're hired.
Or the whole
so talented.
hello.
Oh,
And you're
yes,
start
all
doing
the
your whole
time.
spiel. It's not me. Leave a message.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
we get
so
that all the
hilarious.
time. So, yeah.
A question for Rochelle?
Probably what are the most important soft skills of the future? Someone could have a degree, the highest degree in that field, but what is the crucial thing that you have to develop yourself? I guess you can't really learn at university or anything.
Sure. I think a few sort of key ones would be their attitude. I mean, for me, that's everything. Collaboration these days, working, you do it through school and uni a lot more, but being able to collaborate with people on pieces of work, on projects, what else? Those ones. That communication piece. We learned a lot on the GirlBoss program.
Yeah.
That communication, whether it's communicating with stakeholders, communicating with your teammates, communicating with your managers, being able to influence people, and being able to put together a sort of project or a business case. And without those sort of key skills, it's really hard to move forward in your career.
Yeah.
So that would be my three top ones.
Yeah, so almost like translation, putting what you want to do into words for everyone to understand.
Totally. Putting your ideas and your thoughts and feelings and how you want to progress, whether it be a piece of work or how you want to move into that next step, and being able to, sort of influence and communicate with the people around you is really key.
Yeah.
Tina, any other grilling questions for
Okay,
our good friend
Rochelle.
Rochelle here?
I understand you're a mother, you have a partner, and you do a really important job at Fletcher Buildings with the recruitment, and you're a senior member there. So I just want to know, how do you balance all of that, and what's your experience with any tough times, and how'd you get over that?
It's a really big question. I think everything in life requires balance, and once you get into the workforce and you girls are probably busy with sports and outside work activities, it's all important and really important to keep that balance. So, my best advice would be, when times are, when you're really stressed and under pressure, take time to get into nature, fresh air, going for a walk, whether it's doing a sports activities or gym or anything like that. Getting that exercise is really, really important, because that can manage your mental health. I think as well, taking time on the weekend and after work. These days we can get all of our emails and everything's just on your phone. You can constantly check your work emails, you can constantly be doing work outside of work. And I think if you find that balance right, as soon as that scale starts to tip, if you're giving too much attention to your outside work activities, then the work sort of scale tips. And then if you're giving too much to work, then your home life tips. And I think managing that balance, I'm nearly 40 and still trying to manage that. So it does take a long time to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, give attention to both of those areas. And definitely take time for yourself, that fresh air and walks, and that's how I sort of manage stress. Otherwise you can just lose it sometimes. So,
For me personally, I think what is really crucial is really being aware of why I'm feeling stressed. And often I find, because I work, long hours and doing my role, but because when I love what I do, I feel energized by it. But when I'm noticing that I'm feeling the most tired and my energy levels are the lowest, I often am able to recognize it's because I'm doing something that's not aligned with my path, or I'm not really understanding the meaning or why behind it. And so sometimes I feel overwhelmed, but really it's just around actually making sure that I'm aligning how I'm spending my time with what I want to be doing and my why and my purpose. And I think that's a huge part of me. When I feel most exhausted, it's because I'm doing something that I can't see that meaning behind, and I'm not getting that value out of it.
That makes so much sense. Especially you never get tired of doing what you love. I've realized that. And I think I can sense that from you two, that because you guys love it, I've never seen you guys in a dull time. Every time I've spent with you, it's just been so amazing. And I never feel like, oh, I have to get away. This conversation's dying.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
You can just see when people aren't passionate about what they're doing and they've just got that kind of aura around them. But then you can see with you too, you're just so energized and excited about everything you're doing. And I find that if I'm not doing anything, or if I'm not as you said, finding a purpose in what I'm doing, then I just get burnt out, or I'm just oh, I don't want to do this, and all.
It's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have a question, Ariana, for Rochelle?
So how do you rebound from big setbacks, something you've been working on for ages and this didn't work out?
Yeah, I think taking time to reflect is a really big one. Because sometimes you might be so set on a path, whether it's a career path, whether it's a uni path or a particular job, and sometimes, our paths aren't always what we expect. And sometimes your path takes you down one area and then you take a right or you take a left. And sometimes those can be the most redefining moments within your life. And there's always going to be surprises, Life is there's not a guide or a manual to live life. And things, you can get taken overseas, or, you can meet the love of your life, or, you never know what's going to happen. Or you might be studying something at uni and then you think, I do not want to do this, I want to do something else. And you have to sort of recalibrate and change your goals. But I think really taking time to reflect and follow your heart, but your brain as well. You want to be passionate, but you want to make wise decisions. Lean on people that you really aspire to be like. Your family members, people like Alexia, managers at work or mentors that you have at uni or at school or wherever they may be, and ask for advice. And don't be afraid to take risks, because by taking risks, sometimes that's the best way to really achieve. Doing something that's scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was really helpful, because I feel like I'm so set on my path, and my mum's always like, Ariana, you can do something else. Life doesn't always end up like that. There's 20 different career paths you could take. And I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing. And I'm only starting to realize that I can just chill. And I'm 15 years old. I have my whole life ahead. I don't need to set out every single year a life plan.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something that is really interesting to hear, because I was very much like you.
I think every girl's like that.
Yeah, definitely. And so I was, really focused on here's my 1 year, here's my 2 year. But actually I found with GirlBoss and the growth, and I was so set I was going to go study software engineering and then work in a tech company, and now I've had my dream job, which is working with amazing women like yourselves. But I think I've had to actually just sort of scrap that whole kind of idea of 5 to 10 year plans. Because if I, even just 5 years ago, I would have had no idea that I'd be doing this full time, which is amazing. And so I think that's a really key part, is just having that confidence to stay away from that 5 to 10 year plan, which is which is quite difficult. Are you a person that has a 5 to 10 year plan?
I have not really, to be honest. I couldn't tell you what I'm going to be doing in 1 year, let alone 5 years.
Yeah, because you achieve so many things, right?
Yeah, I just think I like to have personal goals of what I want to achieve, and some work goals, but I really feel like things evolve, as they evolve, and you get interested in, I left school really early. I didn't actually go to university, so I didn't have, I want to be an engineer, or I want to be, X, Y, Z. I didn't have that, and my career has kind of gone from, all different types of roles to where I am today. I've, been in recruitment and sort of that, HR space for the last 14 years. And now I'm really kind of moving into that diversity and inclusion space, which is something that I didn't really realise. It just kind of happened, and one day I was like, oh, I'm actually in this space, but I didn't realise I was kind of in it. So sometimes, it may be a conversation with someone, or a job that you take, or whatever it might be, will take you into a space or an area that you kind of didn't really know. And within roles, there's so many different parts to your role. And you might think, oh, this is something I really like, and you might end up doing a project on that, and then that may become a job in the future. So you just don't really know. And if you talk to so many senior managers within different companies, I think most of them will say, they might have studied something random at university, or most people, that first 10 years is just kind of nutting out, and then after that, once you sort of hit your 30s, you kind of start to get into an area that you're really, really passionate about. So don't feel that pressure or stress. I mean, most of the people that you met at Fletcher Building, they've all studied different things, and we've got lots of people in our technology space, and they all came from different areas. None of them studied tech. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So I mean, even your story itself is so interesting, Rochelle, because you're an award-winning recruiter working, and it's true. The first time I met Rochelle was at the Young at Heart Awards, and I remember she just kept going back up to stage, and then by the time you did your last thank you speech, you probably didn't know what to say. You're like, okay. But it was amazing. So, you've done some incredible programs, but then also you didn't go to university.
Yes.
And I also didn't go to university, so we're both degreeless over here.
We went to the University of Life.
And, so what are your thoughts on that? Both on the perspective as a recruiter, and then also as someone that didn't go to university.
I mean, it is different these days. A lot of young people do go to university. I think it really depends what you want to do, because some roles I really think you do need to go to university. If you want to be an engineer, if you want to study chemistry, that sort of thing, you kind of really do need to go to university.
Yeah, you don't want to go to a doctor without a degree.
No, doctors, teachers.
That building looks straight enough.
But other areas, it depends on what risks you want to take. You can take a gap year, and that can end up in doing something that you love. It depends what your networks are like. If you've got people within your family and friends network that can, get you an opportunity at a company, lots of people end up doing that. They can, mothers, brothers, sisters, uncles, next door neighbours, they can get you a job, and then you might study later on. Or, you don't have to always just do a degree. You could go to a polytech and do something like that. So there are lots of options. We ran a grad program at Fletcher Building, so going to university and getting on the grad program was a really big thing as well. So, there's not that many people that, it depends in terms of like struggling to get into something. That's where that hard part is, because if people don't know where they want to go, there's apprenticeships and things like that people want to do. I know lots of people want to get into that sort of construction space, and they might want to study, to be a builder or something like that. Well, you don't need to go to university for those types of jobs, and lots of those roles can lead you on to all sorts of really, really, really good careers. So. Yeah.
And I really loved what you mentioned there around the power of networks. And something that I'm really passionate about, and what I often see, is that so often the people that do get the internships or access, not necessarily through organisations like Fletcher Building, but in other organisations, it's often through their own personal networks. And what I'm really passionate about is really enabling that equity of access by encouraging more young women to actually network and create their own opportunities. And I'm just going to touch on Ariana, because she's got a pretty amazing story. So on Tuesday, was it Tuesday that we created LinkedIn?
Yeah,
yes.
I think so, yeah.
So on Tuesday, we at the GirlBoss Advantage program, we all created LinkedIns, and I taught a LinkedIn workshop, which was pretty exciting. And Ariana created the most amazing LinkedIn page, and then she went home and on the train, right? In 2 hours on her train ride, she added 300 people on LinkedIn across her industry, which is in civil engineering. And you've already got some pretty awesome messages and connections. Do you want to share a little bit of insight around that?
Yeah, so it was a little bit backwards to what Alexia said. I get really easily bored, so I was trying to make the bio, and I was like, hold up, I could just do something else. So then I went through all, I added a couple connections like Alexia and all the other girls at GirlBoss, and I was like, hold up, I could just add all these people. So I went to Alexia's followers and I just added like 5 pages worth of people, and then I kept doing that on the train. I would just add so many people, so I got up to like 400 people, and I was like, I should probably create a profile after I got a bunch of messages being like, why don't you have a profile? So then I put a photo on, added a profile, and I got a couple messages. So today I went and talked to a lady from Guardian Angel Security, which was really cool. Just about her journey as an entrepreneur, and also in the search and rescue industry, which I'm really interested in. And also, what else did I get? I got a couple contacts at Becker Engineering and a lot of different stuff.
An internship offer as well, and people's asking to get involved. And I just think that's such an amazing story. She created on Tuesday, and I actually didn't know that you went today. That's amazing. And she's already having those meetings, and she showed me the messages, and it was about 15 messages from people reaching out saying, hey, I love that you're only 15 years old, you're on LinkedIn, you're really passionate, and I'd love to help you on your journey. And some senior leaders from her industry reaching out, and one even said, hey, I'd love you to to work on this over the school holidays. I just think that's such an exceptional story that shows that there are opportunities out there if we're willing to take them. And I think we don't always have to rely on our own immediate circle, and we can actually go out there in this modern age and create our own circle.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And be proactive. You are only 15, but once you get to, study your engineering, by the time you finish and come to me for a job, you would have so much experience on your CV that you'll actually be able to say, hey, look, these are my details and this is what I've done, and you're going to stand out above everybody else that's just come straight from school and gone to uni and haven't done any extra, curricular things or done any part-time jobs. You're gonna have this wealth of knowledge and programs and things that you've done because you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things is kind of talking about yourself, essentially. So one of the ways I combat that, I was like, she's done this, because I did not want to
you spoke in third person on his profile?
Third person, because I was like, I felt kind of uncomfortable with being like, I've done this, I'm doing this, but I think it's really important just to brand yourself, talk about everything you've done, every single opportunity you've taken, because then and just add anybody, talk to anybody about what you want to do, who you want to be, and all of that, because anybody has connections in the field you want to go into. So even if they might not help you, then they know someone who will.
It's you never know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think so often when I talk to young people, and they often hear, reach out to your family, family and friends that work in industry, and they feel demotivated because they think, I don't know anyone that works in that industry. But actually, if they started at every family gathering, every family birthday they're at, started to share what they're passionate about, what their career goals are, they'll actually be surprised at how big that network can be.
Totally. You have heard that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is so true. Yeah, definitely.
And so just to touch on what you said about the whole networking thing and growing it, how did you feel when you got all these messages and did you feel did you feel a struggle to talk about yourself and be I'd want to do it, I understand that, but I feel it's a thing as women, we can't talk good things about ourselves. We should be oh, sorry, someone else helped me, or someone pushed you up. You can't just take ownership of your achievements. And I just want to know, was that really weird for you?
Yeah, I feel it was quite weird being oh yeah, I've done this, and people would be oh, talk more about this, and I was I'm really good at talking. When I'm talking to other people, I make them talk about themselves because I don't like talking about myself. So it was weird when people actually wanted to know about who I am, essentially, and all of that kind of. But it was also really motivating, people wanting to know about who you are and what you want to achieve, even if it's not about what you achieve, it's about what you want to achieve, and that was really motivating as well.
Yeah, so, I think that's cool because even I need to learn, and especially coming from someone who's younger than me, it's actually nice because it's you get this freedom to do it too, and it's nice to know that if all of us women start doing that, just taking ownership of the stuff that we have done and we deserve credit for. And I think it really does open spaces for more women to do that too and get to those positions and get to those places where they want to be without having to feel modest about it. Like, there's no need to.
Absolutely. And I think it really ties into the idea of often as women, we lean out of opportunity. And for example, if we're going for a job role, we'll only go for the role if we had like 90% of the qualifications we have. Whereas men, you know, they might look and be like, I'm kind of there, I'm sure I'll be all right, right? And so I think, you know, even that's interesting when it turns to actually putting our hand up for promotions and even looking at the gender pay gap. And Rochelle, what are your thoughts as a recruiter around negotiating your pay, and how important is it that women step up and do negotiate?
I definitely think, you know, we want to close that gender pay gap. I would always negotiate. Yeah, I think there's no harm in asking. It's scary. I've had that before, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it, and I want to do it, but I'm too scared to do it. And then you do it, and you get it, and you're like, oh, that was worth it. Especially if it's another 5 or 10 grand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, hey, just think there's no harm in asking, and you know, just see what happens.
And I think a lot of the time we know that we should negotiate for our pay, but we don't know how to do that. And I think I read online like some of the best strategies to actually go in and share a range. And also, this was a study, I think it was like Harvard Business Review. It actually also helps if you share a range that's an odd number. So like, like
52 to 57.
Yeah. 52 to 57. It's definitely an odd number. And do you want to, you know, what is your thoughts? Like, what's the best strategy, in your opinion, for negotiating pay? Like, how do you get in there and do it?
Especially if it's a pay rise or a new job, I think you need to have stats and figures. You need to have something to back yourself or back the reason as to why you think you deserve that. Because if you go in and say if it's a pay rise, if you go in and say, oh, I think they say, oh, whatever it might be, 55, and then you say, oh no, I think that, you know, I deserve 60, and then your manager says, well, why do you deserve 60? And you're like, because I've done really well and I think I deserve it. That's just not kind of, you know, enough.
Especially if you're fresh.
I think that you need to go in with, you know, I would actually plan what I was going to say and all the reasons why and all the things that you have done up until now and things that set you aside. There's lots of salary survey information out there. You know, if you go online, there's Hayes salary survey. They do one every year, and there's loads of information as to, you know, what salaries are out there. You want to make sure that you're in line with the market. You don't want to go too overboard and sort of say, I want $90,000 for a role that's paying 65, you know. You want to be realistic and know your stuff. Know what the market's paying, what other roles are paying within your business or within other businesses that are competitors. Don't be afraid to ring up and ask someone for some, you know, salary advice and see what information you get, or use your networks and ask, you know, people like me or people like
your girl,
your
GirlBoss network.
GirlBoss network. Is anyone, you know, got this experience, and with this, what kind of salary, you know, what sort of range are you on to be able to negotiate?
That's a really interesting one. And I think often as women, we struggle to share about money so openly. And I even remember you, Rochelle, you know, we were chatting away and you were so open to share what salary you were on. And I think that was really refreshing to hear. As often, you know, growing up as young women, I feel like the narrative we get is that it's not okay for women to speak openly about money. And it's not okay for us to even say things like, I love this career, I feel like I can have a great impact, and I also love that it pays so well. You know, I was talking to a family friend the other day who rented out part of her house, and I asked her, like, oh, how much do you get for that? And she said, like, oh, I don't do it for the money. And I was like so surprised, because I was like, of course you do it for the money. You know, what do you do? She's like, well, I do get it just to, you know, give a little bit of, you know, a little bit more cash flow. But she had to, like, her instant reaction was to say, oh, I don't do it for the money.
Defensive,
you know, as if there's something fundamentally wrong with women prioritizing money. And I know, Tina, you're studying this year a Bachelor of Commerce. And, you know, so you're clearly a girl that's happy to talk about money.
I want that money.
So, you know, is that something that you're seeing even within your friend group or within your peers or across women in your life?
I've got 2 jobs right now, and people are like, whoa, 2 jobs, how do you manage all that? And it's just like, you gotta prioritize what you really value. And for me, it's like doing the hustle now, doing whatever I can to expand myself and grow myself while I'm young and I can, because when you're like 30, 40, you don't want to keep hustling and just keep grinding, because you just want to relax and spend time with your family and like actually go and do things that you would never imagine doing and when you've got that experience that you can. So I feel like as a Bachelor of Commerce student, you're already like wired on financial literacy, you already like know, have an advantage over others. But I'd say to young women to get more involved and invested with their money. You don't have to spend every penny you earn. Like spend some, save some, invest some is something I learned last week. And it's something that I'm really interested in doing now because I can do it. And I feel like, I mean, Ariana, like with your internships, you're probably going to get them rolling in through your LinkedIn page. Like, make sure you get those paid ones. Make sure that you save some and spend some as well. Like, enjoy your life, but make sure you've got that little bit for yourself as well. Because
yeah, completely.
I mean, you can and you should.
Yeah, I love that.
It's also about like knowing your worth. Like if everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do that for the money, just do it for like the enjoyment. But you also have to work on kind of the practical side a lot and work like, this is what I need to do, this is how much I need to get, and like working on that as well is really important.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to look into, if you're at a crossroad, if you're this is not so much for you ladies because you know what you want to do, but for the viewers out there that don't know what they want to do and they quite keen to do a job that it's going to earn them lots of money. Don't be afraid to research and find out what kind of roles earn some really good money, because hey, it definitely helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the sad reality is historically women's work or roles that have got a large proportion of women do tend to be underpaid.
Those admin, hospo, all those types of roles,
healthcare,
a lot of healthcare, teaching,
aged care working,
all that sort of thing. And that tech, engineering, all those roles are where the money's at. And sometimes it's roles, you might go into something and then you're like, oh, it doesn't really, kind of fit with what I thought I'd be earning. And you can get to certain areas and that's kind of where it stops. But yeah, other areas like that tech space, you can go to so many different areas and earn some really good money. And do all sorts of different roles within that space. So you're not just stuck in that one, that one sort of path. You can go into all sorts of different areas. So,
absolutely. Do any of you have a challenge that you're currently facing that you'd like to, or a challenge that you've faced in the past that you'd like to share with Rochelle and see if she can give you some live mentoring right on air? Does anyone, do you want to start us off?
Yeah,
Tina?
sure. I would say with me, I really prefer the whole comfort and safety aspect of life. Like I don't like to take unless I can measure that risk, I don't like to take that. So I just want to know, how do you get comfortable with being uncomfortable and stepping into a space, especially in the corporate world? You've got to take risks and you've got to like take that chance. So I just want to know from your experience, how would you advise me on that?
Awesome question.
That is an awesome question. I just think take baby steps. Like whether it's, I remember the first time this is not a work kind of thing. Sometimes I find taking those scary steps outside of work can kind of help build your confidence in that area. For my first time, I lived on my own, and I just felt like such a girl boss. I was like living on my own, living life, and I had to get some furniture, and I got a van from a friend, and I drove the van, the stick gear, and I went and got the furniture on my own. It was a place that I hadn't been to before, and I did everything on my own, and I just felt so empowered that I did it on my own. I didn't need anybody to help me. Because sometimes in life you do need to lean on people to help. And sometimes I think those little achievements, whether it's travelling on your own, I'm not meaning like you have to do everything on your own to feel empowered, but things like that are scary, or going and doing something like public speaking or whatever, and you have that moment in your head where you're like, I can do this, I can actually do it. I think start off small steps and do little things that push you outside your comfort zone, and then build up to those sorts of things. And I think if you always do things that make you feel uncomfortable, then when it comes to the really big things, it doesn't feel that scary. I mean, I get scared with stuff all the time, but if you just do it and just say that little mantra to yourself, I can do this. Yeah,
and just forget about the whole like scary aspect of it and just be like, I am able to do this and I just got to do it. Yeah. And just do the job.
And getting into a habit of taking risks has been so crucial for me. So now I just know, like, even if I don't necessarily, it's less about do I feel great doing this and more about, is this actually going to help me get to where I want to be? Is this going to help increase my impact that I want to make on the world? And really shifting it externally can be really powerful. I ask myself, sometimes I get nervous being asked on like a media interview, and I just tell myself, am I going to let this fear stop my contribution to the world? Or am I going to make the conscious choice to take that risk and to always lean into that opportunity, and then you start to get used to it and you're like, oh, I feel nervous about that, but I normally feel nervous and do it anyway. So I think getting into a habit will be really key. Do you have a question?
So how do you almost deal with like confrontation and like getting out of your own head? Because like I've been in networking events where I'm like, trying to leave a conversation, I just make excuses. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom, like I need to pee all the time right now, like I just don't know what's going on. I've got an appointment with it, and I just spiral myself, and the person's, you can just see them like looking at you a bit weirdly, and you just like get out of there.
I think practicing is a really good thing. When I first started, my first job was in sales, so I had to do lots of standing up and presenting, and I mean, let's be honest, no one really likes to do that, and some people really struggle with it. You know, I used to stand in front of the mirror every night and relay my presentation. It was back before PowerPoint. And I used to record myself and do it in front of other people and like push myself to do it, because I think often when you're nervous or when you're scared, it's because you feel unprepared. But if you're prepared, and if you know what you're doing and you've practiced, then that fear kind of just goes away, because if you have done everything you can to prepare for the situation, whether it's presenting, whether it's networking, or whatever it might be, whether it's a pitch or whatever, if you've practiced and you know your stuff, then there isn't actually any reason to be scared. But if you've stayed up too late the night before, or you haven't practiced, or you haven't put that effort in and that work in, like university, once you start to hand in your papers or do exams, if you've studied and done everything that you should have with a really clear deadline and timetable of all that time you need to actually put into your study and put that work in, on that exam day, you won't feel that that feeling of I need to be sick. But if you haven't studied and you know that you've slacked off and you know that you could have put more effort in, then you are going to have that I need to be sick feeling.
Oh, that's so true. And I think a really key point around that is, and even touching on your point around how to leave a conversation, and I know that's something that so often we struggle with at networking events. We're talking with someone, it's going really well, and then, the conversation's drying out, it's time to work the room, and we don't know what to do, so we say, oh, I'm just going to pop to the bathroom, or you just kind of nod off, or you just like turn around when they go to grab a glass of water, you just get for the door. And I think a really key part of that is just acknowledging that the conversation is ending. So say their name, thank you so much, stick out your hand, and then turn your body language to strong body language to leave. I think often, particularly as young women, because we're trying to be polite, we don't acknowledge that the conversation is ending. And then that can actually have the reverse effect. So, yeah. It was so lovely to speak to you, Ariana. I hope you have a great evening. And then turn around and go.
Yeah, totally.
And I think like the thing with when you were saying you were nervous, and sometimes it's not that you're nervous because you're ill-prepared. Sometimes you really have prepared like weeks in advance, but it's because you care. And you care so much that like you don't know life without this opportunity or this thing that's coming up that you're wanting to impress someone on. So I guess realizing that you'll still be okay even if things don't go your way, and you care about it, but you'll find ways to move on, and you'll find a new thing that will give you that same sense of drive. So
I love that. That's so deep, right? Because I think often we try and put our trust in other situations. We put our trust in our knowledge in us, that we know the content, or the trust in this, the situation. But if we had that internal trust where we go, you know what, regardless of what goes wrong, I trust myself, and I know that I'm still going to get up the next day, and even if it goes wrong, I know that I'm still capable and I'm still intelligent and I'm still awesome, then we can actually handle whatever happens, even if things do go wrong. So I love that. That is such a beautiful, deep moment.
And also sometimes a little bit of nerves is not the worst thing in the world. I run assessment centres for all our graduates. I see people that are either fresh grads or whatever level that they're at stand up and have to do presentations. For grads, they have to do a 10-minute presentation on a topic that we provide 5 days before, so that's quite intense. And some of the grads we've had, you can see that they're nervous. Some of them have been super nervous, almost shaking, they're so nervous. But I'm assessing them on their content, the way that they deliver it, all those sorts of things, I'm not going to say, oh, they were too nervous. You know what I mean? Like, and once the first few sentences come out, then they sort of get their flow, and I think somebody that can deliver that, and you know, if they're still doing the eye contact and all the other really important things, but they're nervous, it's not actually a big deal. It's kind of a little bit endearing sometimes to be a little bit nervous, to show that you, to me, that shows me that you really want it.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if someone stands up and is super cool and calm and collected and they just nail it, like, you know, it can almost come off as slightly arrogant, you know, so it's a fine line between, you know.
And I think even acknowledging that is quite important. I remember when I was involved in this interviewing process for a tech company, and so I was actually the interviewer, and I noticed that often when people get nervous, they actually close up. And so they don't share that they're nervous. Yes. They don't share that they really want the role. They probably want the role more than anyone else to interview. But all I can sense from them is that they can't wait to leave the room, right? They're like, that is all I can feel from them. Like, okay. And they're just like ready to get for the door. So, you know, even sharing like, hey, I really would love this opportunity. You know, forgive me if I'm, you know, maybe not say forgive me, but I may be a little bit nervous. That's because I just really care. Feel free to even acknowledge that. I'm all about acknowledging what's in the room. I think people really appreciate that vulnerability.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that goes back to that communication piece. I've had people in an interview, whether it's an assessment centre or standing up or whatever, and someone goes to say an answer and they just go, oh, and all this stuff comes out. And then they say, actually, I just scrapped that. I just want to answer that again. You know, we're all humans. We're not sitting here. You're not interviewing for the United Nations. You know, and you're not interviewing to be a Prime Minister or something. You just would be like, okay, no worries. And just, you know, they'd start again. Or even with a presentation, if you stood up and just completely mucked up the beginning, just take a minute, take a deep breath and say, I'm just going to start again. And just go. You know, you don't need to ask permission. Oh, can I start again? You just do it. I'm just going to start again. And you just,
I love that.
You just start again and do it. No one's gonna care.
Yeah.
No one's gonna, you know, especially at your level, you know, you guys are just starting out, you're at the beginning of your career, and don't ever feel afraid to just take a moment and just say, oh, muck that one up. I'll just, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that point around not asking for permission. I think so often as young women, we really are waiting for permission, waiting for someone to tell us to actually we can step up and we can be a leader and we can be the change. And I love that. We don't need permission.
Yeah.
And on that note, team, I have got a very exciting announcement. So I'm going to just pop under the table because we are going to announce the winner of the Miss Monopoly Challenge giveaway. So team, I'm back. Woo. So we are now going to announce the winner of the Miss Monopoly game. Can I get a whoop whoop? Woo! And I think all of you guys actually entered this competition.
We did, I did.
Spoiler alert, unfortunately none of you are the winner. But this was randomly drawn and I've got screenshots to prove it. And the 5 winners of our Miss Monopoly, feel free to hold that for the fans, is Chelsea Widjaja, Leah Vanderkoff, Joe Parker, Bordine Moses, and Jezza Vivian. They are our 5 winners who will be getting 5 brand new Miss Monopolies delivered to them. So that is pretty exciting. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we want to play a game after this.
Yeah.
And it's the first game where women get paid more than men, which is pretty exciting. So, unfortunately, team, that's all we have time for this week. But I really want to challenge everyone at home. If you've got any questions or any people that we should interview for future shows, please do let us know. Drop below in the comments. And I'd like to give a big thank you to these amazing Dream Team women here with me today. And I just want to give just one word or one intention to finish off today that we're going to be taking in for the next week. What's kind of one word that's really intentional that we'll be taken in? So I think for me, my word's going to be focus. What about you, Rochelle? What's your one word?
My word's going to be 3 words. Echoing Nike is just going to say, just do it.
Love that.
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Awesome.
Mine's going to be evolve.
Ooh, evolve. I love that.
You're good at this game.
Damn, I want to do another one. Fantastic. Thank you all, team, and have a lovely evening. And tune in next Wednesday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the GirlBoss Show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, team.